Hi, I'm Darrel. Glad you could join me. I'm going to do a little demo here in an ongoing series called the Critique Series. I have a student's drawing here of an eye, which is one of the exercises that I show you. And there are some very important things that you may hear me refer to many times, but I like some repetition so that it helps you start recognizing these things in your pictures. Everything that I have to say and recommend, though, will be in context of the context of the 5-pencil method. And if you're not familiar with that, make sure you go to 5pencilmethod.com and watch the free demos. It'll help you understand the technique. There's a lot of exercises, and then you'll be more familiar with what I'm talking about here. Again, this is one of the students' work, and I picked it out again because there are several things that I want to make sure that I start helping you develop a habit about. You kind of have to do some different things with an eye, take some liberties, and I think they're all going to be good, and things I want you to watch out for in your photo source too, that sometimes it lies to you and it isn't necessary. So let's go ahead and begin. Some of the very, very important things that I talk about with eyes is that if we're making eye contact, which this one is, we have some very standard things that never vary. And it's real easy not to think about them. But I want you to realize that when an eye is making eye contact with the viewer, that the iris is perfectly round for all practical purposes. This one is quite good. I think it's close enough. It's really quite well done. And I think the overall eye is really a well done eye. But then, as we have established that, I want the pupil to be in the very center. I just get a sense that this is maybe giving me an impression that it's off to one side a little more distance from here to here than from here to there. A little more distance from here to there than from there to there. And so I'm going to take the liberty to I'm going to bring the edge of this out a little bit. I want to be careful that it doesn't get too big. It would make it unnatural to have too much of a dilated pupil. Usually, even if we don't think about it, it usually means there's something wrong, like somebody's had some trauma or maybe had some medications that dilated their eye. And so there's certain things that our minds pick up and start making judgments on that we can easily remedy. So I don't want to get this too big, but I think there's plenty of room for me to come out here and expand this out a little bit. Again, I like to have a little bit of a softer edge. I think this pupil that this person has just done very well. But I think we can get a little more in the center. May seem like I'm nitpicking, but I want to keep nudging you in a direction that is going to make a big difference down the line when I start showing you some other things. If you're used to addressing some of these things and watching, you're going to be able to accomplish many more effects later on. So we've expanded that out, I think, probably enough. It doesn't have to be actually perfectly round, and I certainly don't want to have a hard edge circle and then fill it in. I don't want to have that. So I like this building of my pupil by almost doing a complex scribbling and just feathering the edges, because of the way that there's a muscle structure on this edge, so that it can contract and dilate, and so it just fits very well to have it soft. So then I'm going to go ahead and also take away this highlight. I try to avoid a highlight in the center of the eye. It's one of the first things I tell my students in the classroom here. Get rid of that, because it is going to minimize the effects that we have going for us with this darker pupil. That wonderful contrast is going to be really important. It's one of our darkest values on the entire portrait, and it is going to be next to one of the brightest. And so we have this very subliminal but powerful opportunity to draw the viewer where we want them to look, and that is into the soul of the person. and at least have that be the central theme. So now I want to go ahead and I'm going to take that away. And if this is an actual drawing, this is not the actual student's drawing. So if it was your drawing, you could actually, and if you have an electric eraser, you could actually do this as many times as you need to. I don't want you to think, oh no, I put it in the wrong place, what am I going to do? Because you have a remedy for that too. Now what I would do to replace that is I would go ahead and take it off to the side a little bit. And you could do this with your other eraser in most cases if you haven't pressed too hard. And this is one of the reasons why it's good to watch the free demos, because it addresses all of those things, and each one of them is very important. So I'm going to go ahead and soften up the edge just a little bit, but just take the smallest little bite out of that pupil. And it's over to the side. One of the things about a reflection, some people think, well, all right, it has to be in the middle, otherwise my eye isn't going to look right. But the reflection can be anywhere. The only reason it's in the middle is because of the flash on a camera. And that flash is right there in line and projects light right in a place where it probably wouldn't normally land. And again, it has a tendency to take away the effect that we're going to want by having this darker value and the contrast it's going to have with the reflection, the sparkle in the eye. So I've moved it over, and now one of the other things that's very important, and I think some of it is being accomplished here, but I just want to reinforce it while I have a chance, is I want to know where that eyeball, where I can't see that eyeball anymore. So you'll hear me say many times, a clean edge to value is going to give us the opportunity to separate two dimensions, to be able to know that something is going around and out of my sight or underneath something I can't see it anymore because it's being blocked from my view. So this helps us to be able to have that separation, but I don't want to leave it a line. I want to be able to fade this down like an edge of a shadow would be, and flashes also make shadows very harsh. So sometimes it's hard if you don't know what to do. You would have a tendency to either eliminate it or make a very harsh edge shadow. And I would rather have a very soft transition into the light. So this is going to be something that I want to do all the way along here, except I don't want to have this become, in most cases, very dark. Sometimes you might see in your own drawings, there's other drawings that you might have a very hard, dark line going around. I like this to be very light here, and probably in most cases get a little lighter here. I don't want it to be as dark as this because it's the farthest away from the light. It's the farthest underneath that little overhang that the eyelashes and eyelid create. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of this off. Back this down a little bit. And then I want to probably have a little lighter edge on these eyelashes. If you'll see, some of the heavier marks are where they're actually coming out of the edge of the eyelid. I think the spacing here is quite good, but I would probably back them off a little bit so that they look like they have tapered ends, which is another reason why the tapered stroke comes in handy. The ends where it enters the skin or wherever it's going and coming out of, it has a tendency to be quite light, very thin on the end. So I'm going to do that. And if I had any weight to it at all, it would probably be down here further and use my tapered stroke. I don't want it to have a blunt end. Okay. Now, one of the other things that you take in consideration with an eye, if I have done this, and I am shading this down because it's a shadow. Have some of my eraser on there. I want to be able to have my rule of light in action here. And many of you may have heard me before. There's some hard, fast rules about light. And That is, everything that goes to where there's less light will get darker. It doesn't all go to the shadow and become the same color. And if you follow what I'm talking about, you're going to have a much more effective shadow area where it doesn't just become all flat. Everything that is the same color will be flat. Everything that is the same value will be flat. And I try to avoid that at all costs. I want contour and curve in virtually everything that I do. I can almost never go wrong, even if I put more than I would see. So I want there to be the opportunity to show dimension everywhere. If you've seen the How Light Works demo, great. If you haven't, I encourage you again to go to the 5pencilmethod.com and watch that. It'll help, I think in pretty simple terms, help you understand what I'm after. Because as this is darker out here, showing the edge of the iris, if it's going up to where it's going into the shadow, I want it to increase in value as well. So I never lose my detail, I just watch it go into the dark. This is going to be a huge benefit later. Many, many things benefit from this concept. So everything that goes to where there's less light will get darker. And I'm not going to be able to probably demonstrate it as much here because I can only do so much with this print. But the other side of it is everything that comes to where there's more light gets lighter. Just a common sense flip-flop of the thing. Everything that goes to where there's less light gets darker, and everything that comes to where there's more light gets lighter. And if you remember that, it is going to add a wonderful dimension and contour to much of what you're going to do. And there are no flat places on a body or any part of a human being. And it's a way that you can go ahead and enhance your drawing, make them more lifelike, make them come off the page, and have that added advantage just because of that principle. So it works out well with the 5-pencil technique too, because I'm using the tapered stroke, I'm building my values in a way that always shows a transition. And I hope that you can see just those few little places here where I think it might help this drawing. Naturally, you could come in here and decide what's shading what. So we could have this be almost like this, because this is maybe a little bit of a recess here, a fold, and what's shading what? Well, I would shade this down. I would probably put a little more value under here because I want to show that this is kind of a flat surface here, and then it comes over the edge and actually goes back and then starts coming back out again. And that's why you start seeing this very bright on that front edge. And then as it goes over that edge, it's being shaded again. And so that's where you start getting some of that color, some of that value. And that gives us dimension. So these are some of the things. This is very generally done. I'm not going to take the time to refine this too much. I want to basically just come in here and make a few little suggestions of things that you can look for. But I hope that helps you. And again, I thank the person that sent this in so much. And I look forward to the next one. So have fun drawing.